Surprise, surprise. It's Daily Connection, and you get two for the price of one. You get Bob, and you get Ray. Isn't that exciting for today? Both of us at one time. There is a word in Scripture that says, behold, or in the New American Standard, it says, yo! Are you paying attention? Are you staying alert? And that's what we both want to talk about today. We recently returned from a short vacation to the Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. And it was a glorious time, and we saw many things. And let me share just one of them, and it has to do with paying attention. We were coming back over the mountain and came to the Continental Divide. And there are two beautiful ponds at the Continental Divide. And Bob said, all these cars are pulled over to the side of the road. I wonder what they see, because we weren't seeing anything. So we pulled over. And what did you see, Bob?
Well, there appeared to be a moose out in the lake. I mean, I had to put the binoculars on to tell, but it definitely was a moose. It was dark brown, and there was somebody getting close to take a picture, which is very foolish with a moose. They're very unpredictable.
But Bob saw it. He paid attention to the dark form in the water. And one of the men standing on the side of the road said, there's a bald eagle in the trees. Now the trees are even further beyond the ponds. So I looked, not with binoculars, just with my eyes. Now we have been training ourselves to look for birds, for hawks along the road. And we were taught in Alaska that when you're looking for a bald eagle, you look for a golf ball up in the tree. So I looked into the trees. And what did I see? But a white golf ball. And I said, Bob, I think he's in the tree. And so what did you do?
Got my binoculars and I looked for the white golf ball. And sure enough, there was a bald eagle sitting in the tree behind the moose a little ways to the left. And you just standing there in the tree. And it was just beautiful. That was probably the first time we've seen such a creature in the park there.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And other people said, well, there's nothing out there except that moose. But they didn't have eyes to see. And the Lord's been training us to have eyes to see. That's what he says, have eyes to see. So we look, and sometimes we have to look where someone else is looking before our eyes are open so we can see what they are seeing. And the Lord gave us eyes to see that bald eagle. It was exciting.
Yes. First time to see that in the mountains. Another night we went out at dusk, 6 o'clock, 6:15, to the sheep lakes. And these are two little ponds where the bighorn sheep come down to lick the minerals. But lately they had been seeing moose there. So we went to see what we could see. And that night there were no moose that we could see. But we saw something else instead that we hadn't seen really ever, had we?
Yeah. So you're looking at this field, which is a light brown color because everything is pretty dead from the drought. And you're looking around and you don't see anything. I don't see any elk, don't see any moose, but movement caught my eye and I looked where the movement was. And I got the binoculars out and zoomed in, and there were 3 coyotes. They were scampering about. And well, that's kind of neat. What's happening? And then they began to sing.
Oh, yeah. Not the howling that you think of coyotes at night, but an actual singing. It was really cool.
They were so excited. They were jumping up, spinning around. And from previous experience, we began to look further because that indicated someone else was coming or near, and they were excited to see him. And so as we scanned around, there was a fourth coyote that was coming, and they greeted their friend with howls and singing and jumping up around. It was so exciting to see that. So I felt like the Lord kind of whispered after I was reflecting on this. Do we get excited when he starts coming around? Do we look around for more of him when we see an aspect of his presence? Do we look to see, is there more? Do we get excited? Do we jump up and down? Do we spin around? Years ago, we saw bunny rabbits spinning around when we were talking about Jesus, and Ray talked about that in another daily connection. Do we do that with the Lord? Do we do that when we see our friends? I don't think I've done that recently anyway.
Jumped up and down.
Jumped up and down. But we need to reflect on those things.
We need to have eyes that are open to what God is doing. We need to be looking, observing, paying attention. Yo! Are you paying attention? Not just to where God is moving, where you see an action, or like the wind blowing in the trees, but we need to be paying attention to his voice, that he speaks to us constantly. God's always talking to us. Are we paying attention to what he's saying? And we had that happen on our trip too. We were having dinner in a restaurant, and the hostess or the manager had seated us, and she stood there just chatting for a moment, and Bob heard God say something.
I heard him say, ask her if she writes. Oh, okay. So I said to her, do you like to write? And she paused and said, when I was little, I liked to write. Well, do you write now? No, I haven't given it any thought. I said, it's in you to write. And the more we talked to her, Ray and I talked to her, she started to think about that. And she got excited.
Oh, yeah. She came past our table many times, and each time she'd stop and say, I am getting so excited. My mind is just thinking of all kinds of things right now. What were your names again? And we had never told her our names. And she said, what are your names? So we told her, and she goes, thank you. Thank you so much for putting that desire back into me to do something I've always enjoyed doing, and knowing that it is possible that I can start writing again. She felt so good about herself at that time, and we were so pleased to see God moving on her, touching her heart as we spoke with her. That was an evening I was glad we had paid attention to the voice of God in us.
So I've said this many times before. There are 5 important words to remember. Give expression to the impression. Sometimes the impression of the Lord nudging us is very quiet, very subtle. But give expression to it and see what happens. And with this young lady, she got excited, and it made her day. That was her words. Thank you for making my day.
Yeah.
So I trust that the Lord will make your day so you can help someone else and make their day. The Lord bless you.
And pay attention.